You know what nobody warns you about prenups? They're sold as protection for both partners. But sometimes, one person plays it smarter than you ever saw coming. I'm Sabrina. I'm 29. And I just learned the brutal way that my husband Daniel had been playing chess while I was playing checkers. 10 years. 10 whole years. I thought I had the whole plan down. A stable marriage to a respectable man who backed my career. Parents who finally stopped criticizing my choices. And Roman, still a part of my world exactly how I wanted. I thought I'd cracked the code. I was eating my cake and keeping it too. And I honestly believed I'd earned that balance. The truth is, my parents backed me into a corner in college. I'd been with Roman since high school, and we just fit. He got me in a way Daniel never did. But my parents hated him. Said he had no future, that I was throwing away my potential. They threatened to cut me off financially if I didn't walk away. And with my trust fund tangled in their conditions, I wasn't about to risk everything, even if Roman was the love of my life. So I caved. I met Daniel a few months later through friends. He was studying finance, came from a polished family, and my parents adored him instantly. Here's the thing though, Roman and I never officially ended. We just went underground. My parents assumed I'd moved on. Daniel thought he'd landed this great girl who chose him. And I convinced myself I was being clever, holding on to both worlds at once. Daniel proposed 2 years in, and honestly, it felt like the obvious next step. Both families celebrated, and Roman accepted that this was something I had to do. The prenup. That was my parents' idea. The deal was simple. If we divorced before 10 years, I kept my family wealth and Daniel walked away with nothing. After 10 years, everything would split down the middle, unless the divorce was Daniel's fault. To them, 10 years was long enough to prove it wasn't just for show. Daniel was incredible during those first years. He pushed me to take a consulting job with travel, never complained about late nights, and backed every move I made. What I didn't see was that he was quietly giving me all the space I needed to tie my own noose. Every work trip was a chance to see Roman. Every late night at the office was cover for texting him. Every conference weekend turned into a hidden getaway. Roman lived a couple of hours away, but we made it work. Hotels during business trips, quick lunches I disguised as client meetings, girls' weekends that were actually romantic escapes. I became an expert at juggling both lives, and truthfully, I was proud of it. The worst part, I didn't even feel guilty. Maybe that says something ugly about me, but I believed my parents had forced me into this impossible setup. Keeping both relationships alive felt like the only way to keep everyone satisfied. Daniel had his wife, Roman had his partner, my parents had their picture-perfect son-in-law, and I had my heart where I wanted it. For 8 years, the system was flawless. Daniel climbed the ladder, I built my consulting business, and Roman bought a beautiful house where we'd spend weekends together. I had separate credit cards for expenses, a fake email account just for him, notifications set up so I never missed a message, even when I was eating dinner with Daniel. And the timing worked in my favor. Daniel's hours stretched longer as his firm grew, leaving me with even more freedom. I told myself it was ideal. He focused on his career, I focused on mine, and we gave each other breathing room. Meanwhile, Roman and I saw each other every couple of weeks, falling deeper into a rhythm. He'd sometimes drop hints that he was tired of hiding, wanted me as his real partner. But he also knew my reality. I convinced myself I was protecting everyone. Daniel had his stable marriage. Roman had love without family drama. My parents got their polished image. And me. I got to live both lives without giving anything up. And strangely, I believed it made me a better wife. Because Roman met my emotional and physical needs, I wasn't bitter with Daniel. I could appreciate his steadiness, his ambition, without resenting his lack of romance. When we were together, I could actually enjoy it. He bragged about me to his colleagues, admired my independence, and seemed proud of us. To me, it looked like we'd built this balanced, grown-up partnership most couples only dream about. Looking back now, I see that I got cocky. After 8 years of pulling off a double life without a hitch, I started slipping. It had become second nature, so I stopped paying attention to the little details. I'd leave my phone out when Roman texted. I'd recycle excuses without keeping track. I'd come home from weekends with him glowing, probably looking like a completely different woman. But Daniel never confronted me, never raised a red flag. He stayed supportive, patient, steady, which only fed my illusion that I was untouchable. What I didn't realize was that he was quietly building a case, cataloging everything, and waiting for his moment. Our 10th anniversary fell on a Tuesday. Pretty anticlimactic for such a milestone. Daniel suggested we push the celebration to the weekend, maybe a little getaway. We ended up at a resort 3 hours away, the kind with a spa, wine tastings, and white tablecloth dining. He seemed relaxed, affectionate, more attentive than he'd been in ages. We reminisced about our early years, got couples massages, shared long dinners. He even brought up starting a family now that our careers were stable. I thought it was a turning point for us. I had no idea it was the finale. That Tuesday morning, he left for work like always. I had a client call at 9, so I was working from home. Around 10:30, the doorbell rang. I assumed it was a package and almost ignored it, but it kept ringing. When I finally opened the door, a man in a suit stood there holding an envelope. He confirmed my name, then handed it to me, divorce papers. I actually laughed at first, convinced it had to be some bizarre mistake. We'd just celebrated our anniversary. Everything was fine. But when I opened the envelope, there it was in black and white, Daniel listed as petitioner, me as respondent. Filed that very morning. Exactly 10 years and 1 day after our wedding. It cited irreconcilable differences, outlined asset division per the prenup, and listed evidence, photographs, credit card statements, hotel receipts, witness testimony. Evidence of a long-term affair. My stomach dropped. My first reaction wasn't panic, it was disbelief. How could he possibly know? I'd been careful. Hadn't I? I called his office. His assistant said he was in meetings all day. I called his cell. Straight to voicemail. That night, he came home like it was any other day, grocery bags in hand, chatting about dinner. I was sitting at the table with the papers spread out, and he glanced at them like they were boring work files. Calm as ever, he said he thought it was time our marriage ended. I demanded to know when he'd found out about Roman. I expected him to say a few months, maybe a year. Instead, he said he'd known since 6 months after we reconnected. Which meant he'd known for 8 years. 8 years of anniversaries, family holidays, business trips, all while he quietly documented everything. When I asked why he waited so long, he pointed to the prenup. Before 10 years, I kept most of the money. After 10 years, everything split, unless I violated the fidelity clause. By cheating, I'd handed him more than half. The timing was surgical. The humiliation hit me harder than the betrayal. Every time I thought I was clever, he was stacking evidence. Every trip, every text, every excuse, he had it all. I thought I was playing smart. Turns out, I was playing checkers while he was playing chess. And I'd already lost. The days that followed were a blur of lawyer calls. Mine didn't sugarcoat it. Daniel's evidence was airtight, the prenup unbreakable. The affair clause stripped away my protections. Legally, I had no ground to stand on. The scope of his preparation floored me. Photos of Roman and me at restaurants. Credit card charges tied to hotels and dinners. Phone logs with calls that didn't match my so-called clients. Testimony from a PI who'd shadowed me. He hadn't missed a single detail. Telling my parents was worse than court filings. My mother's first question, is it true? When I admitted yes, I'd been with Roman the whole marriage, the silence was suffocating. Finally my father said they were deeply disappointed and needed time. Translation, I was on my own. Roman wasn't much better. When I explained, he was quiet for a long time before asking why I hadn't told him Daniel knew. I told him I hadn't known. But he said it made him look reckless, professionally and socially. Then he asked questions I couldn't answer. Had I ever truly planned to leave Daniel? Or was he just a supplement to keep me satisfied? When I stumbled, he said he needed space. The fallout hit fast. Daniel moved into a furnished apartment, leaving me in the house we'd bought together. Except now, with the divorce terms, I couldn't even afford to keep my business started unraveling almost immediately. I was distracted, emotional, and it showed. A few clients backed away quietly, but others started asking questions once word of the divorce leaked into our professional circle. What cut deepest wasn't just losing work, it was realizing how intentional Daniel's strategy had been. For years he positioned himself as the perfect husband, all while nudging me into situations that made my double life easier to expose. He'd encouraged my independence and my travel because it gave me rope to hang myself. His patience and support weren't selfless, they were calculated. He knew that eventually, my own behavior would be the weapon he used against me. My lawyer made it clear that fighting back would be both costly and pointless. The prenup was airtight, the evidence damning. The most I could do was negotiate small tweaks in timing, but that still meant admitting fault and accepting responsibility for ending the marriage with my affair. 18 months later, I'm sitting in a one-bedroom apartment across town, freelancing because my consulting firm collapsed under the weight of ruined reputation. The divorce was finalized 8 months ago. Daniel walked away with the house, most of our assets, and a settlement that reset me financially to square one. He moved on quickly, he's dating someone from work. According to friends, she's everything I wasn't: open, devoted, eager to build a future. People say he looks lighter, happier, more confident. Roman and I tried for a while after the divorce, but without the secrecy and thrill, there was nothing holding us together. What we'd built was based on lies and adrenaline, not compatibility. Eventually he found someone else too. And I couldn't even be angry. Our whole relationship was built on cheating. My parents and I are patching things up, but the dynamic has shifted. They help when I need it, but there's a constant undercurrent of disappointment. They see me as someone who proved them right, impulsive, short-sighted, choosing comfort and quick gratification over hard, honest decisions. The part that stings most is admitting Daniel outplayed me. While I thought I was clever, managing 2 lives, he was 10 steps ahead. He got what he wanted: 10 years of stability, the appearance of a devoted wife, the time and freedom to build his career, and then an exit plan that left him financially secure and morally untouchable. To the outside world, he's the wronged husband who endured with grace. I'm the reckless wife who destroyed her marriage. And people love him for it. They admire his patience, his restraint, his genius in waiting until the prenup terms shifted. They call it admirable, disciplined. But from where I sit, he was lying just as much as I was. He played loving husband while secretly setting a trap. Yes, I was unfaithful, but his deception was colder, more deliberate. Mine came from confusion and fear of hurting people. His came from strategy. He wasn't just living with me, he was building a case against me. Now, at 31, I'm back to rebuilding everything from scratch: career, finances, relationships. Daniel is building a future with someone who genuinely wants him. Roman is with a woman who doesn't see love as a negotiation with convenience. And me. I'm left wondering whether I'd even make different choices if I could do it all again. The truth is, my parents and Roman put me in an impossible spot. Daniel gave me stability I needed, and I wasn't ready to let go of either life. People expect me to say I've grown, that I've learned some big lesson. But the only thing I've really learned is that I wasn't as clever as I thought, and that other people are capable of being far more calculated than I ever imagined. The fairytale about honesty and love always winning feels childish now. Daniel didn't win because he was more honest, he won because he was smarter, colder, and more strategic. Maybe that makes me the villain. But I'm done pretending his motives were pure while mine were selfish. We both lied. We both made choices for our own gain. The only difference is that his plan worked, and mine didn't.